Ultimately, however, the theocratic millenarian revolution envisaged by the movement failed. Crossley and Miles end their story by gesturing to Jesus' role in longer-term historical developments, not as a prime mover, but swept up in the historical materialist process itself. Radical and fanatical objectives of the initial movement transcended their original historical context of first-century Galilee. Crossley and Miles show how the inherent tensions between the Jesus movement's revolutionary and reactionary impulses would be raised back to life in various guises and places over the centuries to follow. They end their book by looking at the place of the Jesus movement in longer-term historical materialist developments. Professor James Crossley.
The Jesus movement didn't die off, of course. The belief that the leader had risen from the dead was important for the continuation of the movement, but it could not have survived without networks and some support on the ground. Key networks had developed through fishing and the more wealthy adherents to the movement, like tax collectors, for instance. Elite women with interest in philosophy heading households also played their role. Workplaces were important in the spread of the message too. Jewish gatherings or synagogues were also pre-existing networks across the Roman Empire with various local connections. The longer-term development of roads and transportation was conducive to the spread of religious ideas of an overarching God. Certainly what became known as Christianity looked very different from the Jesus movement in Galilee and reflected different class interests, but it wasn't entirely different. Ideas of theocracy and imperial rule were present among the earliest Jesus movement and could be remoulded to form the ideology of empire. But in becoming the language of empire and of Christian Europe, Christianity formed the language of resistance, and Jesus' words could simultaneously be used against empire and against feudalism and then capitalism in the millennia that followed.